There are 2 games left in the NHL season for the Blue Jackets. They are locked in at 29th in the league, and we're so close to being free of this terrible, terrible season.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. So I have to let you know also that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Let's talk about the Blue Jackets. They showed up last night, sort of. Lost 4-0 against the Florida Panthers. I believe that is a season series sweep for Florida, correct? They won the first game 5-4 in overtime, 5-2 the second one, and finally a 4-0 win. Bobrovsky gets his 44th career shutout, and the Blue Jackets lose their 10th game on the road in a row. It started badly with the goal. The Blue Jackets and the Monsters both kind of had a rough time last night. The Monsters allowed a goal after 13 seconds. The Blue Jackets made it all the way to 47 seconds without conceding a goal. But they kind of settled down a little bit after that. Jack Reeves continues to be very, very good, despite the fact that the team can't seem to buy him a goal. He made 42 of 46 saves for the Blue Jackets. Again, just a really great night for him. He continues to exceed expectations. We'll talk about Jack Reeves in a little bit here, but everyone else, they were there. They existed. Extremely rough night for the top defense pairing. Werenski and Severson, I thought, really struggled, which is potentially why they didn't get the normal amount of ice time. Werenski was actually third on the team in terms of ice time for defensemen. Provorov and Gabranson both played more. Looking at kind of who created offense, it was the Sillinger-Texier line for the most part. Mikhail Pucha had a fairly decent night as well, but for the most part, the Blue Jackets, I think, are just kind of... I hesitate to say phoning it in, because I don't think that there's ever a point at which NHL players phone it in. You know, like, it's the same thing about, like, oh, what, the players are tanking. They're not. They're not wired like that. They're not tanking. They're just not very good. But I think they're really, really ready for the season to be done. God, Alex Nylander had a god-awful night. I just pulled up Natural Stat Trick to double-check some numbers. The Sillinger, Marchenko, Texier line was good. Blankenberg and Jiricek were fine. Everyone else was there. You know, I find it really interesting that Provorov and Gabranson had worse nights in terms of possession and in terms of creating offense than Werenski and Severson, but because Werenski and Severson were on the ice when the goals were allowed, I guess that means that they have to play less than Eric Gabranson, who was literally, they tripled the amount of shot attempts against than for when he was on the ice at even strength. He was on the ice for 10 shot attempts for and 30 against. Like, the top line, again, has Alex Nylander's hot streak has finished up, I think, which we kind of expected. I don't think he's 100% at the minute, but that line, Nylander, 1 shot attempt for, 15 against. Gaudreau, 5 4, 22 against. Vronkov 4 shots 4, or 4 shot attempts 4, and 17 against. So again, no one on the ice was very good. Sillinger and Marchenko were the only players that came out even at 5-on-5 at 50%, 17-4, 17 against for Sillinger, 16-4, 16 against for Marchenko. But man, just a truly, truly brutal night for that top line, which is, again, unexpected, because even when, especially, a player like Gaudreau is having a rough night, he's still creating offense, and he just wasn't doing that. And whether that's to the credit of the Florida Panthers top line to shut them down or what, but I'm looking at just at ice time now, and Johnny Gaudreau played 14:43. Vronkov 13:43, Nylander 11:55. There's your top line. That's how much it's playing. And honestly, that feels kind of fair enough because the line wasn't very good. I'm glad to see the Sillinger Texier line kind of take the bulk of the ice time. Sillinger continues to they're clearly pushing him to be maybe the second line center next season. If you put Fantilli in at that top center position, I think Cole Sillinger at 2C, they're really pushing him. His matchups have been, he's been playing against McKinnon and Crosby, and he's played against the Matt Barzal line in New York, for example, and the Svechnikov line against Carolina. I'm just pulling up the shift chart to double check who he was matched up with. Last night, he was matched up against the Barkov line. So Barkov, Reinhardt, and Tarasenko. And, I mean, Alexander Barkov, one of the best two-way centers in this league, if not the best, should perennially be in Selke consideration. He's kind of this generation's Anze Kopitar, which is not to say that Anze Kopitar has died or anything. He's still, again, an excellent two-way center. He's still the 1C in LA at the age of 36, but Barkov, I think, is kind of his second coming, and he's a really, truly underrated player, I think. And Sillinger held his own against him. So I'm going to consider that a successful night for the Sillinger line. Already talked a little bit about Jet Greaves, but we'll talk about him again. Continues to be the only guy that the only guys that have consistently showed up over the last kind of couple of weeks or so have been Jet Greaves and Cole Sillinger. Kind of wobbly against Tampa Bay. 4 goals on 32 shots. It's Tampa Bay, just it was Stamkos hat trick. What are you going to do about it? But he's got a 9-16 on the season. In 7 games, he's faced 249 shots, which is, again, that's too many shots. I'm gonna real quick try to do the math on that, but 250 shots over 7 games is too many shots to be facing, and he's still coming out. So he's averaging 35 shots a game right now, give or take, and he's still coming out on top in terms of his numbers, if not in terms of the team numbers. So he's got 2 wins on the season. That first NHL win was against St. Louis. Made 43 saves. Or 41 saves on 43 saves on 45 shots. And then has continued to impress and had kind of, I thought, again, a wobbling start, allowing that first goal. But that first goal, Justin Danforth was screening him. What's he supposed to do? He can only do so much. Matthew Tkachuk, great player. Feels weird that Matthew Tkachuk, I feel like he's had a down season this year. And is still one of the best players in the league. Yeah, he's quote unquote only at 85 points this season. After back-to-back 100-point seasons, that is technically that's considered a down season for him, but he's still extremely dangerous for this team. And like I said, he showed it with that goal. it was a tough game. The Blue Jackets should have been better. I don't think Bobrovsky was good enough to get the shutout. That's not like to say that Bobrovsky was bad. I don't think the Blue Jackets challenged him very much. 25 shots officially. Only 6 high danger shot attempts. That's a third of what the Panthers had on Jet Greaves. So, had like I said, rough start for Jet Greaves, allowing that first goal, and then shut it down for the next 20 straight shots, I think, before Panthers scored 2 quick ones at the end of the third period, and then the Panthers had 17 shots in the third period, and he only allowed 1. So 46 saves, or 46 shots in total, 42 saves. Continues to impress. I just wish the rest of the team would show up. Take a quick break because I'm tired of talking about this stupid game. We're going to talk a little bit about the draft lottery because the Blue Jackets are locked in at 4th overall for the 4th best odds, taking back Clint Celebrini. So we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish that you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. It's the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. You don't need to spend hours on a bunch of different job sites looking for the perfect candidates with the perfect skills. You can do it all on Indeed. They've got a ton of powerful hiring tools like Instant Match. They've got special assessment tools that you can use. They've got virtual interviews, and you don't need to wait around. Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in the search, according, again, to Indeed's US data. And that means that your job is so much easier. And honestly, I love when things are easy. Indeed's the job site that I use when I am job hunting, so I can only assume that it's the best one to use when you are hiring as well, because I think it's pretty dang great. So join over 3 million businesses worldwide that are using Indeed to hire great talent fast. And Indeed knows that when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/locked-on to start hiring now. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're not going to spend a ton of time talking about what I want to talk about next, which is the Blue Jackets finally locked in 4th overall in the lottery rankings, which means I believe they have officially they have 9.5% chance of drafting Macklin Celebrini, which is, I mean, it's not the worst. It's not as good as last year, but I still think that it's gonna be down to the wire. I'm not expecting the Blue Jackets to win the draft lottery. And honestly, the Blue Jackets kind of have a it's gonna be really weird because the Blue Jackets have they have a better chance of drafting in other places than they do in terms of so basically how the math works is that the Blue Jackets actually have a better chance of drafting 5th overall than they do 4th overall, because there is a better chance that both teams below them in the standings will jump up than Columbus winning the draft lottery. Math is weird and it doesn't make a lot of sense. But as of right now, they have the 4th best odds. They can't drop down to 3rd. They can't get jumped up to 5th unless 2 teams above them jump them in the draft lottery. If there is a guard, what will happen is Anaheim and Columbus will both jump up because of how they got screwed last year by the draft lottery. So if there is a guard, Anaheim will jump up a place, and Columbus will also jump up a place. That's not really how the draft lottery works. Columbus is either going to draft first, second, fourth, fifth, or sixth. Like those are the only options. They can't draft third overall, unless there's some kind of weird shenanigans that happen. But I feel pretty good about this draft position. We've been doing a lot of prospect profiles recently. One came out just last night. I've got another one coming out tonight. There's a ton of guys available at fourth. And again, I feel like every single time I ask someone who should the Blue Jackets take at fourth overall, I get a different answer. So, even if the Blue Jackets get to the draft, they pick fourth overall, and so my top three right now is Celebrini, Lindstrom, and Catton. If all of those guys are gone, Demidov is still there. Steve Boehm is still there. Sam Dickinson is still there. Lev Shidov is still there. There's just so many players that are kind of in that space right now of could be a potential top 5 pick. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped to 10th, and that's, you're not even looking at, guys like Kari Yakimchuk, who we're going to talk about tonight. Cole Eiserman is a guy that I don't think the Blue Jackets should draft, and I don't think he's on their radar for drafting. Zane Prek is another guy who's in the top 10. Anton Salayev is in the top 10. There's so many great. There's a lot of perfectly acceptable options for the Blue Jackets at fourth. There are some guys that I really want them to draft, but if they don't draft them, it's not the end of the world. They're going to be adding another pretty good prospect to a group of extremely good prospects. They're not looking for their game-breaking forward, I don't think. Or their game-breaking defenseman. I think the core that they have right now, they're excited to add another impact piece to that. So, whether that is a Demidov or a Dickinson or a Lindstrom or whoever that might be, the team is still going to be built around Fantilli for a long time. They're just adding complementary pieces to him right now. So I'm kind of excited to see how the draft shakes out. It's kind of going to be impossible to do a mock draft, I think, because after Celebrini, everything is wide open. But obviously, we are rooting for the Blue Jackets to win the draft lottery because I think a Celebrini Fantilli down the middle or Fantilli Celebrini, and then you put Cole Sillinger as your 3C, and that's everybody wins, But even if they don't win the draft lottery, it's not the end of the world. There's still a lot of pretty good pieces. They're going to be available for the Blue Jackets to peruse at fourth overall. I'm going to be interested to see who the new GM is, first of all, and what his draft strategy is going to be, because I think that's going to be really interesting. I want to check in with some prospect playoffs as well, and we'll really quickly do the Frozen Four because it's the shortest one, and the Blue Jackets will have a player in the Frozen Four. They were guaranteed to because both the Blue Jackets prospects that went to the Frozen Four played each other in the semifinals. And that's Aiden Preshuk and Gavin Brindley. Boston College won 4-0. Rough night for Blue Jackets fans, I guess, because I think they're a lot more excited about Gavin Brindley than they are about Aiden Preshuk, which is extremely fair. But Brindley and the Michigan Wolverines eliminated, and it'll be BC versus Denver in the Frozen Four final. Gavin Brindley finishes his junior season finishes his sophomore season because this is only his second year. I forgot how colleges work in America. It's fine. 53 points in 40 games this season for the University of Michigan. Big Ten Player of the Year, somehow not a Hobie Baker top 10 nominee. I would expect to see him at the World Juniors for the USA. Possibly not. Actually, he turns 20 in October, so possibly not. But whether he goes back to Michigan or not, I'm really excited to see what he does next season. Apparently, he's leaning towards going back to Ann Arbor and back to Michigan for his junior year, which I feel fine about. But again, I wouldn't complain if he decides to turn pro. I think the Blue Jackets need like some good vibes, quite frankly, and I think Brindley turning pro would be a good vibe. So Aiden Preshuk is going to be playing for the Frozen Four Championship in Minneapolis today, I believe, later today. So by tomorrow, we'll know what's going on there, and then I suspect Treshuk will probably be turning pro at the end of his season as well. He is, I believe this is his junior year at BC. I'm just double checking that because I want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so this is his junior year with BC. He might go back for a senior year. We'll see. I think I could see him signing his entry level and then signing I believe you have to sign an ATO if you're a college player coming to play in the AHL for the end of the season. So I could see him doing that, helping out Cleveland, who are just as cursed as the Blue Jackets when it comes to injuries, apparently. So we'll see. Hopefully, he'll be able to come to the NHL as a Frozen Four champion, and we'll see from there. In terms of, we'll check in real quick with our friend Oiva Keskinen over in Finland. Tappara is, I believe, 2-1 up in the semi-final, so to go to the championship. They're 2-1 up over Kalpaa, which is the 7th seed, which again is expected. Tappara won the first game 3-2. Sorry, they won the first 2 games. They won 3-2 in overtime. Then they won 5-4. They lost the third game 2-1. They're playing again today at 8:30 finish time. So I believe that will be around about 2:30 Ohio time or Eastern time. If again, time zone math is difficult when I am not in either of the time zones that I'm trying to work out. But he is definitely on his way to playing in the Liga semifinals, which is going to be exciting. And I'm just going to see what his stats are doing, because hopefully good things. I don't think he's doing like a ton, if I'm being honest. But if he's, sometimes he's just out there, and that is good enough for me. I can't find. Here we go. Keskinen has 5 points in 9 games with Tappara this season. For the playoffs, is averaging about 13 and a half minutes, 14 minutes of ice time a night. So he's not playing the most, but he's definitely in there. And I think 5 points in 9 games for a guy that was drafted in, I want to say like the 7th round, the 6th or 7th round for the Blue Jackets this year. I feel pretty good about what Keskinen's doing right now. He could be a real hidden gem for the Blue Jackets prospect pool, much like McCue Pucha has kind of been. I think I didn't talk about that, but I've really liked kind of his NHL work this season. There's things to work on, but it feels like there's definitely something there. Let's take another quick break, and then when we come back, we'll finish off. We'll talk about which Blue Jackets prospects have moved on to the second round in the CHL playoffs. That's coming up next here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Game Time. I love Game Time. My partner and I are going to the Sharks game tomorrow night in San Jose, and I looked on other ticketing websites and decided that Game Time was the place to go. It was easier, it was cheaper, they had better seats. They have the lowest price guarantee, so if you find tickets in your section and row anywhere else for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference, which is so great. They take the guesswork out of buying tickets. They've got everything. They've got sports, music, comedy, theater. They've got a bunch of really great MLB tickets right now, zone deals, flash deals. Like, you can decide an hour before the game that you want to go, and they will have a ton of great flash deals for you. even up to an hour after the event starts, you can still. So if you get out of work, it's 5 p.m. and you're like, hey, maybe I'll go check out the Guardians game tonight. You can still drive to Cleveland and get tickets, and Game Time is the best option for that. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On NHL, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's finish off with some CHL playoff discussion right now. The WHL has not started yet, but the Moose Jaw Warriors are there. Martin Rashavi and Denton Mateychuk will be facing off against the Swift Current Broncos, who also swept their opponent in the first round. So one of these teams is going to probably, well, one of the teams definitely is going to be handed their first loss of the playoffs. In the same way that there was a really weird thing last season, like in the QMJHL last season, I believe Halifax and Quebec, which were the teams that we were interested in because they had the Blue Jackets prospects on them, neither of them lost a game until they faced off against each other, I believe, which was very funny. But the Moose Jaw Warriors are definitely a team to watch for WHL fans and for Blue Jackets fans specifically. In terms of scoring, Denton Mateychuk, 7 points in 4 games, which I believe has him tied for fourth in league scoring across the playoffs. And then Martin Rashavi obviously had that 3-point game for the Moose Jaw Warriors, like early. He's got, and that's the, I think he recorded those 3 points in like the first game of the playoffs and then didn't do anything for the last 3 games. So he's still got 3 points in 4 games with Moose Jaw. So I'm going to go ahead and call that a success. Again, Rashavi is another really interesting prospect. I'm going to be interested to see what he does in Cleveland next year. He's about to age out of the WHL. I think this might be actually his overage season. I thought he was going to be turning pro last year and he didn't. So, like I said, one to watch there. We'll keep you guys updated on what Moose Jaw is doing. In terms of the OHL, the London Knights are facing off against the Kitchener Rangers, another group that has swept their first round opponent and has been waiting a little while for things to get started. So they're going to be they already started their season, excuse me, their playoff series. They beat Kitchener 5-3 in the first game of that season, or that playoff run, excuse me. Max McCue, goal and an assist, empty net goal, but it still counts. So he's having a continuingly pretty good run of games for the London Knights. And of course, we have to talk about Luca Pinelli and the Ottawa 67s. The number 6 seed in that conference beats the number 3 seed. They're going to go on to play the Oshawa Generals, who are the top seed in that division, which is that's going to be a tough matchup there. Oshawa versus Ottawa is always interesting, I feel like. But Luca Pinelli, just a really great playoff series from him and from the 67s in general. He is currently sitting at, he's got 6 points in 6 games, including 4 goals so far for the 67. So I'm expecting him to continue to show up big for the 67s. Nolan Lalonde still has yet to get into a game for the for his team, who I have completely forgotten the name of. I'm doing great here. The Saginaw Spirit. There it is. I forgot how to read a table. It's fine. I'm very. I'm doing the best I can. We're all doing the best we can here. But Lalonde has not yet gotten into a playoff game, but his team is still advanced to the next round. They beat the Flint Firebirds. I believe are going to be facing off against the Oh no, they beat the Owen Sound Attack, excuse me. So I believe they're going to be facing off against God, who is it? The Sioux Greyhounds. They're up 1-0 in that series. Looks like his goalie partner had a shutout. Good job there, but still no ice time for Lalonde, which is unfortunate. I guess it's Oki's net to lose, and Lalonde is there if he is needed. And he's still getting to experience winning hockey, which is fun. So that's the OHL. The Blue Jackets, I believe, the Blue Jackets don't have any prospect in the QMJHL left. Jordan DeMay and the Halifax Mooseheads were eliminated, and so was Tyler Peddle and the Drummondville Voltigeurs. Oh, excuse me, the St. John Sea Dogs. The Voltigeurs beat them. So that's the QMJHL is dead to us for right now. But Blue Jackets still have a lot of interesting prospects that are active in all of those places. The USHL playoffs, I believe, have started up or are about to start up. And the Youngstown Phantoms have made the playoffs as far as I am aware. I'm just looking at the standings right now. Youngstown Phantoms, the playoffs have not started yet, but they have made it. They finished 4th in the Eastern Conference. And so we'll be playing the Muskegon Lumberjacks in their playoffs. And for the BCHL, James Fisher is there with the Penticton V's is his team, and they are right at the top. They have the playoff standings. The playoff standings here is weird. I don't know why they won't give me a bracket, but it looks like the Penticton V's won all 4 of their games, swept their first round opponent, and will be moving on. And James Fisher had an assist he played in 3 games and has 1 assist, so good for him. And we'll keep an eye on what the Penticton V's do next. It looks like they are going to be playing They are the only team that's swept in their division, so they're done. They're waiting to see who comes out. It's going to be one of the Vernon Vipers, the West Kelowna Warriors, the Merritt Centennials, and the Salmon Arm Silverbacks. It looks like Cranbrook is currently down 1-3, and so are the Trail Smoke Eaters. The Penticton V's beat the Prince George Spruce Kings in 4 games and outscored them 12-4. So good for them. But again, we'll keep an eye on what's happening with Penticton and James Fisher. That's all I've got for you today. Tomorrow, or later today, excuse me, we'll have another prospect profile. I sat down with Derek Newmeyer. We talked about TJ Ginley yesterday, and we're going to be talking about Carter Yakimchuk tonight, who's a really interesting and fun prospect that could kind of probably shouldn't be picked at 4th with the Blue Jackets, but if they end up picking they manage to swing maybe a 10-15 pick. I don't know how they would do that, but it's possible. Yakimchuk is definitely a player that I would kind of have my eye on in that range. I think he's a really interesting player. So we'll talk about him later on today, and then tomorrow we will be previewing the Nashville Predators game, which is happening tomorrow night. Thank you for listening, for making us your first listen today every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, over on YouTube and on SiriusXM. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.